Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. This is Nikki McCoy, Technical Assistance Director for the Work at Health program, and I will be your host for this session. Welcome to the Recognition Landscape, part of our interview series that provides information about important worksite health issues. Today's event will provide an overview of wellness recognition, including the process, criteria, and duration. Before we begin, a few important notes. This event is being recorded. The recording will be available on the Ashland Management YouTube channel. Audio for this event is provided via broadcast. If you need technical assistance or want to ask a question about today's topic, please use the Q&A panel on the right side of your screen. Although we will have a Q&A segment after the presentation, you may submit a question at any time. Lastly, please note that this webinar is provided for informational purposes only. Employers should consult independent professionals to discuss how specific matters relate to their individual businesses. Now, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Chris Calitz, Director of Health Programs and Evaluation for the Office of the Chief Science and Medical Officer at the American Heart Association. Chris is an experienced healthcare professional committed to promoting health through innovative public-private partnerships that scale up science-based chronic disease prevention policies and programs. Welcome, Chris, and thank you for being with us today.
Hi, Nikki. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Great, Chris. So I want to get started. We have a lot of folks who have interest in the recognition landscape, so I want to just start off and begin asking you questions, and I want to encourage our audience members to send in questions so that they can pick your brain while they have you on the line. So I'll go ahead and get started.
Great.
All right. So when we talk about recognition, a lot of folks would like to have some more information and be clear about the definitions. So could you define recognition programs that are available, and then briefly see if you could go over the general process for how folks can seek recognition?
Sure. So recognition programs are workplace wellness programs that score and assess the extent to which work sites are providing a healthy environment for their employees. And there are a number of national recognition programs that we recently profiled in a American Heart Association scientific statement on workplace wellness recognition programs. And I'll quickly summarize those for the listeners on the call. So there are a number of different programs nationally that are available. The ones we looked at were Health Lead, the Workplace Wellness, the Well Workplace Award, which is operated by the Wellness Council of America, the American Heart Association's Fit-Friendly Work Sites, the annual Everett Koop National Health Award, the American College of Occupational and Environmental Medicine's Corporate Health Achievement Award, and the National Business Group on Health's Best Employers for Healthy Lifestyle Recognition Program. All of these programs are very similar in terms of the general process that you need to go through in order to apply for them, although they have different eligibility criteria. So, for example, the Health Lead Recognition Program, the Fit-Friendly Recognition Program, and the Corporate Health Achievement Program are open to all companies, whereas the WellCOA and the National Business Group on Health recognition programs are only open to member organizations. So in other words, companies that pay a membership fee to those organizations. And in most instances, the recognition programs are online assessments. Most of them use proprietary scorecards to score a variety of different components, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And some do apply fees, whereas other forms are free of charge.
Great, Chris. That's a lot of information, and what we'll do is I think a lot of those member organizations will share that information through our customer service team. So folks who are on the line, if you have any questions and need to get that additional information, please feel free to contact our Work at Health customer service, and we'll share those great list of resources that Chris made available to all of our listeners. Chris, I'll go on to our next question. And you spoke about some national organizations who have recognition programs. I guess my question is two-part. Are most of the wellness recognition programs state or local? And do you have any examples of those that our listeners might be interested in?
So apart from the national programs that I highlighted, I would say that there are many state and local-based recognition programs available, far too many to profile, which is why we only looked at national awards in the journal article. But just to give you a sense, and in the interest of time, I'm just going to give one pertinent example for each. At the state level, you often have programs that are organized by the public sector. So, for example, in the state of Florida, there's the State Surgeon General's Wellness Recognition. So that's an example of a recognition program that's applied at the state level. And there are many local recognition programs as well. And these are usually, not always, but very often, local business councils have their.
I think we've had a technical issue with Chris's audio.
Sorry, I'm back. I'm back.
There you go. Thanks, Chris.
Sorry, where did you lose me?
I think you had just began describing the program in Florida.
Okay, great. So the Florida State Surgeon General's Wellness Recognition Program, and then an example of a local recognition program is the Memphis Business Group on Health. There are many local business groups on health across the country, as I'm sure many of your listeners know. And so the interesting thing about the Memphis Business Group on Health is they actually require eligible companies to qualify by selecting evidence-based programs that the Business Group on Health have already pre-selected. So in order to qualify for recognition by the Memphis Business Group on Health, for example, your company needs to have completed one of three scorecards, either the WellCo scorecard, the American Heart Association's Fit Friendly scorecard, or the CEO Cancer Gold Standard recognition in order to receive an award. So those are just two examples, but there are many, many more programs available at every level throughout the country.
Great, Chris, and I think with that information, it really shows that there's a program out there for many different kinds of organizations, no matter their interest, and really want to really highlight that there are, no matter where you are on the spectrum, that there's a program that you could probably work towards.
Absolutely. There are, I think, a number of different programs that not only are appropriate for different companies of different sizes, but also really based on their interests. So, you know, for some companies, they've identified cardiovascular disease prevention as an area of focus. So maybe the Fit Friendly Workplace worksite recognition is better suited to their needs, whereas other companies may have identified cancer prevention as their main focus. So there are many disease-specific recognitions that companies can also look to.
Great. As we look at these different programs, can you just spend a few minutes describing some of the major criteria that need to be resident to achieve wellness recognition?
Sure. So I think the main takeaway here is that there are a number of established best practices for comprehensive workplace wellness programs that have been published, but there's no consistent application of what those best practices are. So in other words, many different organizations organize them into a different number of best practices. So you have the NIOSH 4 elements. Nico Pronk recently published a paper that identified 9 best practices. So what you'll find across the different recognition programs will be similar dimensions that are just categorized or named in different ways. So just to give you an example, the Corporate Health Achievement Award that is offered by the American College of Occupational and Environmental Medicine has 4 categories: leadership and management, healthy workers, healthy environment, and healthy organization. So that's a very concise list of criteria. And then at the opposite end of the spectrum, you have, scorecards that look at more categories. So the WellCoA scorecard talks about senior level support and cohesive wellness teams, which is broadly similar to leadership and management. And then they have data collection, operational planning, health promotion interventions, and program evaluation. And at the American Heart Association, our current recognition program is organized by risk factors. So we look at physical activity, nutrition, workplace culture of health, and tobacco. So hopefully that gives the listeners a sort of a general insight into the fact that you'll come across different categories, but they very often address the same underlying concepts.
That's a great way of looking at it, Chris, so that folks understand that there are some common themes across programs, and they don't have to necessarily be, it's not one particular thing, it's broad enough categories so that folks can achieve recognition in many different ways. So that's very encouraging for our listeners. So the next question, Chris, and before I ask this question, I would like to appeal to the audience. If you have any questions, please don't be shy. We will not call any names when we ask the questions. It's completely anonymous. Please do feel free, as you have Chris on the line as a great resource, we'd like for you to take advantage of it. So please use the Q&A panel on the right side of your screen to ask any questions that you might have while we have Chris with us today. So Chris, my next question for you, and it's a 2-part question. How long does most of the wellness recognition programs, how long does it usually take to achieve the recognition? And then how long does that recognition last? So it's a 2-parter there, sorry. How long does it usually take to achieve wellness recognition, and then how long does it last?
So I'll start with the second question first, because it's the easier one to answer, by saying that most recognition programs usually run in annual cycles. And so, the Everett Koop National Health Award is an annual application. And obviously, once you receive the award, you receive it for life. If you want to reapply for it, you are entitled to do that. And there are a handful of companies that have received the Everett Koop National Health Award more than once. And then, with the American Heart Association's Fit-Friendly Work Sites, we have 2 cycles a year, although we're probably going to transition to an annual award. And if you want to be recognized year on year, then you have to reapply every year. So that's what you usually find across most of the recognition programs. I mean, I think as far as how long it takes, it depends on your own organizational readiness and also the recognition program that you have chosen to apply for, because I do think that there's a variation in the performance levels that certain recognition programs require. I would say, I'm trying to be objective here, based on the literature review that we did, I would say that the Everett Koop National Health Award and the National Business Group on Health are probably the most challenging awards to apply for, because they have very stringent eligibility criteria, whereas some of the other recognition programs, probably the local and state ones, the entry level will probably be somewhat lower. So I think the process involves planning, which I think involves identifying which recognition program is the best program, the most suitable program for your company. That's going to depend depend on things like your company size, your location, the kinds of wellness objectives that you have identified, and whether the recognition program meets those criteria or aligns well with your own strategic objectives. You're going to need to obviously gather the relevant information from the recognition program so that you know you're eligible, and then you're going to need to do an assessment prior to the application to see how ready you are to, potentially achieve recognition. And most of the recognition companies provide technical assistance materials, and I know that obviously the Work at Health program is structured to help with that process. So you're going to need to conduct a gap analysis to see whether you have an opportunity to address some of the gaps that you may have in order to get the maximum number of points in order to achieve recognition. And then you're actually going to need to complete the application. And that's usually the end, the last stage in the process, and most scorecards do not take more than an hour to complete. So, but it's not just an hour of time. There's quite a lot of planning and assessment that needs to go into the process before you actually complete the application and send it.
Thank you, Chris. That was great. That step-by-step guide through the recognition and preparing for it. And I'll just take an opportunity. Chris really began this plug, but I'll continue it. For those of you who will be or are interested in participating in the Advanced Technical Assistance Program with Work at Health, the goal of that program is to provide participants, employers, organizations with the support that they need to get more ready for accreditation and recognition programs. That's our goal, to really guide you through that process, assess where your organization is, and then help you plan and implement a program so that you'll be more ready to achieve accreditation and recognition. So thank you for allowing me that segue to really plug Advanced Technical Assistance and the work that we want to do with employers over the next few months. So want to put in that plug, and we will have the link to that application available to our audience members at the end of our time together. So want to also encourage folks, as well as participating in Work at Health, also participating in this interview with Chris. So if you have any questions, do feel free to ask them. Chris, another question that I have for you is, it seems like it's a process that takes time to achieve wellness recognition. Could you provide the audience with any warnings or major pitfalls that they should try to avoid as they seek recognition?
Sure, Nick. Yeah, I think the first point to make, and I think you've alluded to it before, is it's to recognize that the process of recognition is exactly that. It's a process, it's a journey. Apart from the Everett Koop National Health Award and the Corporate Health Achievement Award, which only have basically one award, most of the other recognition programs are tiered. So most have 3 or 4 tiers, so your typical sort of, bronze, silver, gold recognition. And so, you may be a company that has just implemented a workplace wellness program, a comprehensive program for the first time, and so it may be the case that initially you only qualify for bronze, but that's the whole point. It's to get your foot in the door, to receive your first recognition, and to see where your gaps are and where there is room for improvement. And then it's the journey about going from bronze to silver to gold. So I think, the first potential pitfall is selecting the wrong recognition program, and not doing your homework. So I think it's important to do your research and to be quite clear about which program best suits your company's strategic objectives, whether it's a marketing and communications objective. You may want to, have recognition in your local community, or whether it is a recognition that aligns with the actual wellness objectives in your strategic plan. So for example, the American Heart Association's Fit-Friendly Worksites Recognition Program recently introduced more stringent tobacco control criteria. And so, you know, if you are not meeting the stringent tobacco control criteria for the Fit-Friendly recognition program, then you're not even eligible to apply. So if you were to apply and you didn't check the right boxes, you would automatically, you know, not be awarded recognition. So, you know, that's one of the pitfalls. The other pitfall is not being sufficiently prepared and not giving yourself enough time to do the application. In terms of, you know, I've spoken about strategic alignment. It's really important to get internal buy-in to apply for recognition, because it does require some time from your wellness coordinator, your HR and benefits department. So making sure that you have the capacity and time to go through the process. And it's going to take time to gather the relevant information for the components that are required for the scorecard that you are applying for. And you may have some of that information, but I can guarantee you there's probably going to be a certain proportion of questions that you're going to need to find information for. And that's particularly true of the recognition programs that require performance metrics. So some of the recognition programs require you to submit information around return on investment or improvement in employee health. And that's typically for the highest tiers of recognition, your golds and platinums, and clearly that's going to require time to collect the data, to analyze it, and then to present the data in the way that the recognition program requires you to do that. I think part of the process is doing the gap analysis. So again, that takes time. If you want to receive the recognition and you do have gaps, then you need to identify those and try and fill those gaps if you can. And I think the final pitfall, which is mainly true of the sort of higher tier recognition requirements, is that if you don't have processes available or in place at work to collect data, to analyze it, and to report it, then it's going to be very difficult to meet the more stringent criteria for the highest tier recognitions in some of the recognition programs. So I know that the CDC and Work at Health do place emphasis and do provide technical assistance in terms of, you know, data that ought to be collected and how it should be analyzed. So, and I think more emphasis is now being placed because, you know, recognition has been around for quite some time. Some of the recognition programs have been available since the late 90s, and I think sort of 10, 15 years on, many of the organizations are now turning the spotlight on actual performance measures rather than just process and structural measures. So it's important to look at all three of those metrics: what processes you have in place, what structures and policies you have in place, and then how you are performing year on year.
Great, Chris. Thank you so much. That was so helpful to the group. I want to, again, Chris has shared a lot of great information with our audience. Encourage you all, the lines are open. Please submit your questions. We have a few more minutes of Chris's time. I have one more question. This one's from the audience, Chris. Now, we've talked about the recognition programs and the processes that are required to get it done. Overall, what would you say are the benefits to seeking recognition, aside from the recognition itself?
That's a great question. I think many organizations now appreciate the value of using an external employee health management scorecard or tool like the HERO scorecard or the CDC scorecard in order to assess their own performance in terms of workplace wellness. So that external tool is very valuable. And what that tool then allows you to do is to really take an objective look at how you are performing. And so what external recognition programs do is they provide companies with an incentive to improve their performance, which means, being recognized in being an employer that excels at providing a healthy lifestyle to its employees. And increasingly, that's becoming an important differentiation for, HR and human resources departments who are competing for human capital. People have many different things that are important to them when they're considering a choice of employer, and health and wellness is now an important factor that employees take into consideration when they choose their employment. So I think the external recognition, not only has a public relations value, I think it's also a signal to the local community and to prospective employees that you are an employer that cares about the health of your employees and that you are an employer of choice by providing an environment and programs and tools and support for employees to be as healthy and as well as they can possibly be.
That's great, Chris. I think it is important I think you highlighted a great point that, by showing that you care, that employers really care about the health of their employees, you're able to keep and recruit, the highest quality employees possible. So I want to just spend the last couple of minutes really talking about the opportunity that folks will have, the listeners on the phone, completed Work at Health, the basic technical assistance last year, and just want to really plug and remind you all that the technical assistance opportunities that are becoming available in the next few months really work towards the items that Chris has really talked about today, really preparing you for recognition programs and setting you up to be prepared to apply for these programs and get you more ready for participating in accreditation and wellness programs. So want to just take a few minutes and thank Chris for sharing his time and knowledge with us today. And I want to say thank you to the audience for participating. Chris, again, personal gratitude for being on with me today. It was a great interview and great talking to you. For the participants on the call, we certainly value your feedback and would appreciate a response to the rating poll on the right side of the screen. If you have any questions or comments about today's interview, including those resources that we spoke about, please feel free to contact us at Work at Health Customer Service using the information on your screen. If you are interested in participating in the Advanced Technical Assistance to prepare your organization for accreditation or recognition, please follow the Apply Now link that is on the Work at Health website, and then follow the link for the Accreditation Recognition Readiness application. Remember to register for upcoming events. The next event that will be available is the Data Collection and Utilization event scheduled for Wednesday, July 22nd at 2 p.m. Again, I want to say thank you, Chris, for participating with us today. Thank you to our audience. This concludes today's session.
Great. Thanks very much, Nikki.
Thank you, Chris.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.